The polished marble floors of Hartwell Global reflected the bright morning sunlight pouring through the glass walls, making the entire corporate headquarters sparkle with success. Executives hurried through the lobby with expensive briefcases, investors gathered for the biggest merger meeting of the year, and cameras waited outside for an announcement that could change the company's future forever. Hidden among all the wealth and power was one exhausted janitor pushing an old cleaning cart, his work boots worn thin and his hands rough from years of honest labor. Nobody noticed him. Nobody cared. But within the next hour, one quiet whisper from that forgotten father would shake the heart of the woman who owned the entire building and reveal a truth she had never expected. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that every person deserves to be seen beyond their job title, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in compassion, and subscribe to Journey of Kindness for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Every employee at Hartwell Global knew their CEO, Corinne Vale, as a brilliant but distant leader. She had built the company from a struggling technology startup into one of the nation's largest firms before turning 40. Newspapers praised her intelligence, investors admired her discipline, but her own employees whispered that she had forgotten what ordinary people looked like. She demanded perfection from everyone around her and trusted almost no one. After several expensive thefts and dishonest incidents inside the company, she became convinced that people only behaved well when someone important was watching. That belief inspired an unusual experiment. Instead of relying on security reports, Corinne secretly instructed her assistant to leave her executive office unlocked during lunch. She planned to lie quietly on the couch in the private lounge connected to her office, pretending to be asleep while observing whoever entered. She wanted to discover who respected the workplace when they believed the CEO was unaware. Late that bright Tuesday morning, Corinne settled onto the couch with her eyes closed. The office remained silent except for the soft ticking of a designer clock and the distant sounds of printers humming across the executive floor. For nearly 20 minutes, several employees stepped inside. One manager glanced around before helping himself to expensive imported chocolates from her desk. Another executive answered a private phone call inside her office despite company policy. Someone else quietly borrowed a luxury pen without asking. Each disappointment hardened Corinne's opinion that integrity was becoming rare. Then the cleaning cart rolled softly toward her open doorway. The janitor assigned to the executive floor was named Alden Mercer, a widowed father who worked 2 jobs while raising his 8-year-old daughter, Maris. Every morning he walked her to school before sunrise, cleaned offices until afternoon, delivered groceries in the evening, and somehow still found energy to help with homework before bed. His uniform had been washed so many times that its blue color had faded into gray, but it was always perfectly clean. To Alden, dignity came from effort, not appearance. He quietly pushed the cart inside, unaware that the CEO was watching through nearly closed eyelids. Instead of beginning immediately, he noticed the sunlight shining directly onto Corinne's face. Without making unnecessary noise, he slowly walked across the room and carefully adjusted the window blinds just enough to block the harsh light while allowing the office to remain bright. Then he turned off the ringing notification on the desk phone before it could wake her. Only afterward did he begin cleaning. He dusted each shelf carefully, emptied the trash, polished the glass table, and avoided making unnecessary sounds. Every movement showed patience rather than hurry. Corinne remained perfectly still. She expected curiosity. She expected temptation. Instead she witnessed quiet respect. As Alden finished, he noticed a framed photograph sitting beside the computer. It showed Corinne standing beside an elderly woman whose gentle smile contrasted sharply with the CEO's serious expression. Alden gently wiped dust from the frame. Then, believing himself completely alone, he whispered something so soft that almost no one else could have heard it. He looked toward the sleeping CEO and quietly said that her mother must have been proud of her, but success could become lonely when there was no one left to remind someone how to smile. He hoped the woman in the picture still watched over her daughter because everyone, no matter how powerful, needed someone praying for them. Those simple words struck Corinne harder than any business crisis. Her breathing almost stopped. Only 3 people in the world knew that her mother had passed away 5 years earlier after a long illness. No employee had ever mentioned the photograph. No executive had ever wondered about the woman beside her. But somehow the janitor had looked at that picture with compassion instead of curiosity. For the first time in years, Corinne felt unexpectedly seen. Alden quietly finished polishing the desk, checked once more that the sunlight was no longer disturbing her, and rolled his cart toward the exit. Just before leaving, he paused. He gently placed a folded tissue beside the framed photograph because he noticed a faint water stain under the frame that could eventually damage the polished wood. Then he walked away without expecting thanks. When Corinne finally opened her eyes, the office felt strangely different. Nothing expensive had changed. Yet something inside her had. She spent the rest of the afternoon unable to concentrate on financial reports. Instead, she requested Alden's employee file. The numbers surprised her. He had never been late in 6 years. Never received a complaint. Never requested special treatment. Never missed work except when his daughter was hospitalized with pneumonia years earlier. His salary barely covered rent. Still, every supervisor described him with the same words. Reliable. Respectful. Honest. The following morning, Corinne quietly observed him again from the cafeteria balcony. She watched him helping an elderly security guard carry heavy supply boxes before beginning his own work. Later he repaired the loose wheel on another cleaner's cart using tools he carried himself. When lunch arrived, instead of eating alone, he shared half his homemade meal with a young intern who admitted forgetting her wallet. No cameras followed him. No supervisors praised him. Kindness had simply become his habit. Curious, Corinne asked human resources about his family. They explained that Alden's wife had died unexpectedly 4 years earlier after a sudden illness. Since then he had raised Maris alone. Several employees occasionally organized anonymous donations for school supplies because they knew he would never ask for help himself. That evening Corinne drove past the address listed in his records. She expected resentment. Instead she found a tiny rented duplex with colorful flowers growing beside the front steps. Children laughed outside. Alden was helping Maris ride a second-hand bicycle. Each time she wobbled, he encouraged her with patient smiles until she finally balanced on her own. When the little girl succeeded, she threw her arms around her father with complete trust. Corinne remained inside her car. She suddenly remembered her own childhood. Her mother had worked as a school librarian, often bringing home damaged books that nobody wanted anymore. Together they repaired torn pages every weekend. Her mother constantly reminded her that people, like books, should never be judged by worn covers. Somewhere along the path to becoming successful, Corinne realized she had forgotten that lesson. The next week, instead of announcing another corporate expansion, Corinne surprised the entire company. She introduced a new employee recognition program that honored every department equally, including maintenance, cafeteria staff, receptionists, cleaners, and security guards. Executives looked confused. Janitors looked shocked. Alden quietly applauded with everyone else, unaware that he had inspired every change. Weeks passed. Employee morale improved dramatically. Departments that rarely spoke began working together. Absenteeism dropped. Customer satisfaction increased. The culture inside Hartwell Global slowly transformed because respect had finally become visible from the top. Still, Corinne never told anyone about the whispered words that changed her heart. One rainy afternoon another unexpected moment arrived. Maris waited in the lobby after school because heavy storms delayed her father's bus home. Corinne happened to walk through the lobby and noticed the little girl reading a worn library book while patiently waiting. She introduced herself simply as someone who worked upstairs. Maris smiled warmly and proudly explained that her father always said every job mattered because every person mattered. Those words echoed exactly like the whisper Corinne had heard weeks earlier. She finally understood. Alden wasn't kind because life had been easy. He was kind despite carrying grief, exhaustion, and financial hardship every single day. His greatest success wasn't surviving hardship. It was refusing to let hardship steal his compassion. The following month, during the annual company celebration held in broad daylight beneath blue summer skies outside headquarters, hundreds of employees gathered expecting awards for record profits. Instead, Corinne stepped onto the stage holding a single framed certificate. She spoke about invisible heroes. She described people whose names rarely appeared in headlines but whose character quietly held entire communities together. Then she called Alden Mercer onto the stage. The crowd erupted into applause before he even understood why. With tears filling her eyes, Corinne explained that true leadership wasn't measured by corner offices or million-dollar contracts. It was measured by the way someone treated others when nobody seemed to be watching. She announced his promotion into facilities operations with leadership training, a salary that nearly doubled his income, full educational support for Maris, and housing assistance that would allow them to finally own a home. The applause lasted several minutes. Many executives wiped away tears. Alden stood speechless. He had spent years believing nobody noticed ordinary acts of goodness. Yet the smallest whisper had reached the one heart that needed it most. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Journey of Kindness so together we can spread more stories that remind the world compassion is never wasted. Special request. Comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change someone's life forever. As the celebration ended, Corinne watched Alden and Maris laughing together beneath the warm afternoon sun. She realized that the greatest lesson of her career had never come from a business school, a board meeting, or an investor. It had come from a tired father pushing a cleaning cart through a hallway where nobody expected greatness. His whisper had reminded her that wealth could build companies, but only kindness could build people. From that day forward, Hartwell Global became known not only for its success but for its humanity, proving that sometimes the quietest voices carry the strongest truths, and that one simple act of unseen compassion can awaken a heart that power alone never could.